How's it going, everybody? Welcome to the show. I'm joined by Michael, as I frequently am, and this is a new one. We're doing songs this time. This video probably won't be too in-depth, just a quick video about our respective top 10 songs by legends Pink Floyd. That's one of the first videos you and I did together. And also, it's an excuse to try out these new lavalier mics. One of the production issues we were having with the show is the echoey audio, so hopefully this will rectify that. Also, I don't know what I'm going to put up artwork wise. I might just do the song names. Whatever, I'll figure it out later. Whatever you're seeing is what I decided.
Right.
So, Mike, you want to go ahead?
Right. So our rule was that we can only do one per album. So that was the main thing. And I said my number 10 had to be the Nile song off of the More soundtrack. I think it's the only real song that stands out on that entire record. I don't mind the record. I think it sounds relatively good as a whole with the musical, the score type parts. But the Nile song, it's a hard rocker. It's one of the hardest rockers of early Pink Floyd in my mind. And it was basically the saving grace on why I had it even a little bit higher than some other things on my albums list. So the Nile song is my number 10. It was fairly simple. I don't like it any more than anything else on here, but I think it's a good track.
You don't like what was the other one that was similar? Ibiza Bar, I think it was, or something.
Ibiza Bar was good. I think Ibiza Bar was also good. It was also in contention, but the Nile song, even in my first listen, I was like, the Nile song is definitely the best song on this album for me.
I would say it's definitely the best song off of More, even though I didn't put it in my top 10. The other thing, I think you took a similar approach. If you're going with a More, I don't want to pick the super obvious ones. Right. I don't want to have a list that's just like, okay, Time, Money, Wish You Were Here, Comfortably Numb. I want to make it interesting. That's, limit myself a little bit to.
Right. I wanted to have the songs that I really liked, but if it came down to two different songs and one of them was really popular, and one of them was maybe a little bit underrated, I decided to go with the more underrated track. I felt that was important to have a little bit of diversity, to be a little bit more interesting.
Yeah. So my number 10, again, we're thinking alike here, is Chapter 24 from the debut Piper at the Gates of Dawn. The logical, obvious pick from this record would have probably be Astronomy Domini, Interstellar, Overdrive, whatever. But I was like, yeah, obviously I love those tunes, but I'm going to pick Chapter 24 because I think it's very representative of why I like so much of that record, with a few exceptions. I don't want to hear Bike. I don't want to hear Gnome. Those songs are stupid as hell. The Sid Barrett cuts we talked about. Oh man, it's terrible. His name was Grimble Grumble.
It's God.
It's like, what the hell is that
track
such a turd in the track list? Anyway, Chapter 24 is very vocals heavy. I think it's probably Roger, and maybe there's some Sid tracks on the vocal track. I don't know, but it sounds like mostly Roger Waters. I could be totally wrong about that. I'm gonna look like an idiot if I'm wrong about that. But very pretty, very slightly dark, but also beautiful and melodic. It's just a weird way to approach a song for 1967, and that's what's great about this album, is how weird they were. See, there I go talking about the fucking record. I gotta stick to the song. The song is great. It's very unstructured, very odd, just like a lot of this record is, and I love it, man. I love that whole record, but this song in particular was like the essence of why I like Piper.
All right, so my number 9 was Pulls Apart on the Division Bell. I said in the video about the album, I feel like the Division Bell is best suited as a complete cohesive piece and not individual songs. The only ones that were really in the running for me for that record were High Hopes, the final track on it, and Pulls Apart. And I decided Pulls Apart felt a lot more personal. It was about all the important relationships and the deterioration of them with David Gilmour. So I figured, in my mind, it went there. I really like the melody of it. I think it's a well-made track. I wish I could put other songs on here that were not, from albums that I think are better suited as albums. But if I had to go with anything on Division Bell, I would absolutely go Pulls Apart. And that's my number 9.
Man, I agree that all those songs are awesome off Division Bell, but my number 9 is also off Division Bell, and that's Keep Talking. Love that song, man. There's a few sort of flyover tracks on the Division Bell, but all the ones you named, and I would also put Keep Talking up there as well. Why won't you talk to me? The chorus bounce back, and then that awesome guitar comes in. It's similar in a lot of ways to Pulls Apart and High Hopes, as the whole album is, I guess, sort of very melodic and radio ready. I don't know how we were talking just briefly before we started this list. How do you hate the Gilmore era? It's beautiful. It's great.
It is. It's excellent.
It's different. It's less like hugely proggy and ambitious, but it's fantastic. So
I'd say the Roger Waters era is the easy number one for me. The Roger Waters, David Gilmour,
of course.
And then I'd say the Gilmore, and then the Syd Barrett era. It's just not for me. It's just not my deal.
I agree totally.
It includes Numb, so it's already a black mark on it.
Yeah, I don't have much more to say that you didn't say on that. Production is just pristine all across this thing, but in a way that, a lot of times that's stifling, and I don't like that. But this, I think it complements it very nicely. I just think it's very well produced, but not overproduced. So,
right.
Yeah, we both have Division Bell at number 9.
For my number 8, I went with Piper at the Gates of Dawn, and as much with Division Bell, it was between Astronomy Domini, which is still very hard to say, and Interstellar Overdrive. And I felt Interstellar Overdrive, it reminds me a lot of Swans, like a rock apocalypse. I like how it starts out as a cohesive piece and then deteriorates into this mesh of bullshit.
Yeah,
I really enjoy that. I think I like where they're going with it. It feels very improvised the entire time. And I like the guitar riff at the very beginning. I think the guitar riff at the beginning is super memorable. It's really tight. It's really cool. And it's a standout track on Piper at the Gates of Dawn and from the Syd Barrett era for a reason. But it was a very simple number 8.
So my number 8 is one you apparently didn't enjoy. I had to put something from Saucerful of Secrets on here because people sleep on that record. And I think that is one of their great earlier records that often gets overlooked. So I put Corporal Clegg at number 8.
Okay.
I easily could have put Set the Controls for the Heart of the Sun on this awesome song. Love that song, but I didn't want to be too obvious. So yeah, Corporal Clegg, it is emblematic of what was great about those early 3 or 4 records when they were at their best. They were just so different and weird, and they felt like they had all the tuneful melodic sensibilities of the Beatles, but then all the experimentation of like a Pink Floyd,
Right.
Which obviously, yeah, it's just the go-to comparison. Weird song structures. They weren't afraid to try new things and experiment with weird sounds like those kazoos that come in on this track halfway through. Or I love this song. I think the melody changes are really interesting. Like the way there's not really it's like a multiple different chorus and verse
Right.
sort of mixtures in there. Very strange. I love it, man. I think it's psychedelic rock at its finest before we get into the more progressive rock era of their career.
All right, so I want to give you a spoiler now. I do not have Saucerful of Secrets anywhere on this
I
list.
thought as much.
Shockingly, I know. Number 7 for me is Childhood's End.
Oh yeah.
Off of Obscured by Clouds. It's an anti-war song. It's groovy. I think it has a good message. And there were a lot of tracks I really dug on this record, but none of them really stood out as much as Childhood's End. I like the chorus of it. I like the message, just the message. I like songs that have some sort of meaning that's not just personal. It has sort of a grander feel to it. And that was why I felt Childhood's End should have been the representation of Obscured by Clouds on this record.
Yeah. I wonder if we're going to have a repeat, because several that you've said so far, I was like, oh, do I want to put that on there or not? And I ended up not doing it. It would be amazing if we don't pick some of the same songs here. I bet we picked the same number 1.
I think we did too, but I wonder if 2 through 10 have any overlap.
I'd be really, really happy if we don't, because we don't write these together. We just come with these. So that'd be amazing if we don't have a repeat, besides what I think we're both going to put at number 1.
Mm-hmm.
So my number 7, I think I'm on, is the title track from Atom Heart Mother, a fantastic record. This one is the first of the truly epic Pink Floyd tunes, I think, lengthwise, like, multiple phases. And man, it gets to some of their heaviest music, but then also some of their prettiest music, as does the next one on my list, which is, I put these 2 records, Meddle and Atom Heart Mother, they're so together in my mind because they're so similar in a lot of ways. But Atom Heart Mother, hard to just describe the scope of the artistic attempt that they'd had on this song.
I mean, it's the first Pink Floyd, like in my mind, it's the first Pink Floyd song. It's the first time I listen and I really hear what this band is. Like this definitely them, and I really love that tune a lot.
They've moved from psychedelia into like a
Right.
concentrated progressive rock format with that one. So yeah, I mean, hard to put that one down that far, but they have so many great ones. So that's my number 7.
All right, number 6 for me is my first appearance of the big 4 on here. It is Have a Cigar. I love the rhythm tracks in it, of course. Yes, Have a Cigar. The rhythm parts of it, the bass, the synths and in it are great. I love the message you get about, the music industry and the hatred of it. And it's just groovy. It's just such a cool track. Is it easy to go with a Wish You Were Here? Sure. It's hard to pick Shine on You Crazy Diamond because both ends are really good, even though I prefer 6 through 10, as I said. But Have a Cigar, in my mind, is such a great track. It's just cool. It's such a cool track, and I enjoy it. It had to be my representative from Wish You Were Here.
So my next one is Echoes. That's my number 6 from Meddle. Again, very similar to the Atom Heart Mother record in chronological proximity in their career, but also in style and scope and epicness. And this is the one that I really thought we might have in common. So I'll be interested to see if Echoes appears anywhere on your list. But man, a fantastic whole side meat of a project is Echoes. Some of their hardest rocking, groovy, extended. It's just such an epic listen, as is the Atom Heart Mother song and so many of their other really, really long tracks. They went away from that as they kept going, as so many bands from that era did, because it takes so much out of you, I think, to compose and arrange and rehearse and do these epic tracks. Like Rush is very similar. Though they used to, for like 3 or 4 records there in the period that these were coming out as well, they wrote these like 15-minute, 20-minute songs. And then they were just like, we got burnt out doing that, trying to always just up the ante in terms of epicness. But a Pink Floyd classic. Some of the coolest live performances of the band was Echoes at that, I think it was somewhere in Rome or Greece or something, some kind of, I don't think it was the Colosseum, but it was like some kind of Roman ruin, and they performed Echoes in its entirety, and it's on YouTube, and it's awesome. That's easy to put that on this list.
See, I feel like Echoes is like, so Atom Heart Mother is the attempt or like the first try at something really epic and big. Echoes is the perfection of it in my mind. But I did not go with that for Meddle. I went with Saint-Tropez. I really, really love this track.
Okay.
I think it's atmospheric as fuck. I think there's nothing quite like it in
pretty.
Pink Floyd's discography. There's nothing like it. I think Echoes, there's a lot of Echoes clones or a lot of stuff close to it, even though I feel like Echoes may be the best song on this record, much like Wish You Were Here is the best song on that record. I just love Saint-Tropez. I just think it's just a lot of fun to listen to. It's so relaxing to listen to. It's so easy to listen to. I felt weird picking it because I feel like it's kind of a plebe track, honestly.
Really?
I don't know. It feels like
simple.
Like it feels like something that somebody doesn't listen to music or doesn't listen to Pink Floyd often would go for because it's kind of easy to listen to.
Yeah.
I felt weird picking it, but at the end of the day, I had to go with it. I like it so much. It's just such a great chill out on the beach kind of track. I really dig it.
Very unique. They didn't write in that style very often. So my number 5 is from another record. I doubt, if I remember correctly, you don't like this record. You put it as the worst Pink Floyd album. My number 5 is Terminal Frost from A Momentary Lapse of Reason.
But it's my second worst album.
What'd you have?
We both Umaguma, and then whatever that terrible one they released in 2014 was.
Endless River.
I can't even think of it. That's how terrible. And then it was.
You're right. We both had Umaguma at the bottom, and I think we both had Endless River at 14. Yeah. So yeah, you're right. Anyway, love this record a lot more than you. You put it at 13. I put it at 5.
Yeah.
Terminal Frost is among the least catchy on the record, but I think it gets back to it sort of blends the radio ready and pristine, beautiful production of the Gilmour era with some of the more ambitious songwriting and long form stuff. It's not terribly long. It's like 8 or 9 minutes, but it's as epic as A Momentary Lapse of Reason gets. It's towards the end of this thing. And it's one of every time I hear this album, it's one that gets me excited. It gets going in a way that Pink Floyd hadn't for like 10 years before, leading up to this. Easy to put that on my list. Something from Momentary Lapse of Reason. That was the biggest difference between us, was our love for A Momentary Lapse of Reason.
It might honestly be our biggest difference to date. It wouldn't shock me. I think we've been, I wouldn't say relatively close. We've been closer then a disparity is so as big as Momentary, Lapse, and Reason.
Yeah, and that probably won't be topped for a while because that's one of the bigger discographies that we've done.
Right.
15, having them what is that, 8 places apart.
Yeah.
That's rare that we
massive
have
jump.
that big of a catalog, to review anyway.
Right.
So.
All right, my number 4 is Time off of the Goliath. I didn't want to pick Money. I didn't want to pick Great Gig in the Sky. I didn't want to pick Us and Them or Brain Damage. I love all those tracks. They're all great, but something about Time has always been, it's just always stuck with me. It always hits me because I constantly am thinking about time, the time I have left, the time I have spent or wasted, all of it, and how it just sinks away. And as I said with the album, as soon as I know the clocks and all that stuff is bullshit. I hate that part.
It's too loud.
It's terrible. It's busy and I don't care for it. But as soon as he hits the ticking away, I love it. It's my favorite thing in any Pink Floyd album, except for maybe, parts of my number 1 that I love when he hits the vocal parts of it. Time in my mind is the best track on Dark Side of the Moon, which is one of the best albums. I really, really, really have always loved this track, and it was an easy pick off of Dark Side of the Moon.
Easy to keep talking about because I, again, had to have something from Dark Side of the Moon on here. I went with The Great Gig in the Sky because I thought Time and Money were pretty safe picks, great songs that they are. But The Great Gig in the Sky is it stands alone in their catalog.
That's great.
Boy, what's that girl's name that
I don't know.
Claire Torrey, I think her name is, who sings that. Man, I would love to find some of like her music, like if she's got a record or something, because that just the emotion that she brings to that song is, it stays with you. I remember the first time I still remember distinctly the first time I ever heard this song. I was like, oh, I've seen this artwork around, this Pink Floyd album cover artwork. I'll give it a listen. This was like when I was like 12 or something, and this song came on and I'm just like, holy shit, that was an experience. That's part of what spawned my love for this band ever since. I immediately went back and listened to like every song they had ever.
Right. There's something just in that song. It's so vast yet so simple. Like it's amazing how it does that. It's very epic, but there's not much to it. It's just a woman singing and then just some stuff in the back and you're good. I mean, it's not a complicated song, but it feels so much bigger than almost anything they've ever made.
Yeah. And apparently the production of that was, they were basically just got this Claire Torrey, I assume was like a session vocalist or a backup singer that they'd worked with or something. And they threw her in the booth with that instrumental and showed her a bunch of images of like war and suffering and famine. And they were just like, just don't even think about it. Just like vocalize that.
Right.
And that was like the first fucking take was that. And she walked out and there was an interview that she gave where she's like, oh, I was just like so self-conscious about it. I walked out and the guys were like, that was awesome. And boy, yeah, it was.
My number 3, I think, is going to be a little bit of a shocker because it is not of the big 4, obviously. And it is If off of Atom Heart Mother.
Okay.
I've always loved this song. It was my first foray into Atom Heart Mother. It breaks my heart. If I were a good man, I'd understand the space between friends. If I were a good man, I'd talk to you more often than I do. It's heartbreaking. And I feel every bit of it. Every time I listen to it, I love this track. I've always thought so highly of it. Like Atom Heart Mother is an amazing song. And there are a lot of good tracks on, the 5 that are on there. But If has always stood out to me as something so special and so personal feeling that it had to be, it had to be in the top 5. And I'm not surprised it came in at number 3.
That is a great tune. So boy, this was hard to pick the top few outside of my number 1. We'll just do number 1 together because I know we got the same one.
Yeah.
So I had to give it to Wish You Were Here for my number 3. It's a safe pick. It's going to be on every list like this, but it earns that spot. It's one of the best crafted, again, simple, relatively songs that they've ever written. Gilmore's vocal performance here is flawless, understated that as it is. The message is great. The entire record was named after this song, and this really does capture the whole feeling of the whole record perfectly. Two lost souls swimming in a fishbowl year after year.
I love that line.
Man, that's such a great song off a great record.
I know.
It was really hard for me to divorce my love for the records, for just doing the songs,
Right.
because I always listen to these as whole projects.
I mean, there's a reason also we had to sit here and go one song per album, because we would be sitting here with basically big four songs the entire time.
And I'm looking at my list right now. I actually totally did not mean to do this, but my top 4 albums of theirs on my albums list are represented in my top 4 songs. Totally did not mean to do that. That's just how it came out. I just now noticed that Animals, The Wall, Wish You Were Here, and Dark Side are my top 4 albums of theirs, and they're my top 4 songs. So go ahead with your what are you on, 2?
I'm on 2, and my 2 is Hey You. I remember, my first foray into The Wall when I was young was, obviously Another Brick in the Wall, and then it went to Comfortably Numb. But when I first heard Hey You, when I listened to the entire album for the first time, it was something like I had never heard. It was hollow, and it was lonely, and it was just odd and a little bit scary at the same time. It creates a lot of unsettling emotions. And I've always liked that. And Together We Stand, Divided We Fall, and then it fades out in the end. I mean, Comfortably Numb's a great song. Don't get me wrong. And I think there are a lot of great tracks, obviously, on this record. But Hey You has always been the one I go to if I'm going to listen to an individual track on The Wall, which is a 24 song album.
Yeah,
it's going to be Hey You.
Well, this is funny how similar our lists are shaping up. My number 2 is also Off the Wall, but I couldn't divorce myself from my love of Comfortably Numb, everybody's favorite Pink Floyd song, their most played song, their most popular song, whatever. Safe pick, I know. But god damn, that guitar solo.
Yeah.
It's just
great.
It's the best guitar solo ever.
It's beautiful.
It's just such a beautiful song. I don't even know how they achieved a guitar sound that epic, because this album came out, 79?
Yeah.
Nobody's done it since. I've not heard this epic of a guitar tone. I'm not even talking about the playing. The player, David Gilmour, is a huge factor as to why it's so epic. No argument. But just the production end, I've never heard a tone in a guitar this epic anywhere else. They captured lightning in a bottle on that song. Great message. Great sort of peak concept moment of the album in the Wall film. This is one of the big moments as well, where there's that quiet lull for one of the longest periods of quiet leading up to when this song comes in, when they're banging on the door trying to get him to go to the show. And it's just fantastic. I love this record. I think a little more than you do The Wall, but had to be something on this list from that record, and I went with the safe pick, Comfortably Numb.
I mean, it's weird how I've not trashed The Wall, but I've undersold it a lot, I feel like, in the 3 times I've mentioned Pink Floyd doing stuff like this. Yet it is my number 2 in terms of the songs. I think very highly of Hey You as an individual track. I always have.
You had it on your overrated.
I did. I had it as my overrated, and I had it as my 4th of the big 4. It was I basically said it was a very distant 4th, but Hey You, I love that song. It was my favorite Pink Floyd song until we saw Brit Floyd, the Pink Floyd, tribute band. And then I heard my number 1 for the first time, which was Dogs. And we'll
just talk about Dogs. Obviously, my number 1
Dogs
also is Dogs. Go ahead.
And I mean, I talk about epic moments when the vocals come in on time. The most epic Pink Floyd moment in my mind is when the guitars hit for the first time, the really high parts of the guitars for the solos. I love it. Exactly. Yeah. It's amazing. It's rip your heart out ridiculous. The entirety of this song. Like I said, when we did the album list, it's just no right being as good as it is for a 17-minute song. It is so easy to listen to.
Yeah.
It's so clean, and it's got a political message. It's interesting. It's just, in my mind, it's the perfect song. It's just amazing. It was easily my number 1. It was going to be my number 1 as soon as we picked to do a list like this.
Same thing. It was the one pick. I was sure there's no Pink Floyd. There's no song in the world I like quite as much as Dogs off this record. I mean, you said it all. The way it builds, the different sections, they never wear out their welcome. They're always millimetrically perfect time before they go to something new or introduce a new element or take an element out. You're never bored. You're never looking at your watch. It makes 17 minutes, which is a long time. That's the length of Kanye's last album.
Yeah.
Which felt long. It's like a moment in time, like a brief moment in time. That's how good this song is. And boy, that last bit, you do the long synthesizer bit, and then they come back in, introduce the guitars again with that awesome dual layered sort of riff or whatever. But then the build at the very end where it just climaxes and they double track Roger's vocals. He was broken by trained personnel. It's just that finale is so awesome. I mean, this record is just legendary.
I mean, look, in lesser hands, this thing would have been trash. It would never have worked in lesser hands. It had to have been in Pink Floyd's hands to actually have worked.
Yeah.
And it works beautifully. It's the best song on an album where I'd say it's pretty much perfect. I mean, all 5 tracks on that record on Animals are amazing. And Dogs, even though it's the standout track, it's the best track by far.
Yeah. You know what it is? I think this album perhaps, and this song it's the perfect blend of all 4 members of Pink Floyd. Like they all contribute and work perfectly together on this thing. Yeah. Whereas like The Wall, okay, even though I'm a Wall apologist, a little too heavy on the Roger side.
Yeah.
Right. You go towards the last couple records, again, beautiful and I like them, clearly too heavy on the Gilmour side. This one was the perfect blend of all those guys' skill sets. It's what made them such a great band. They together, they became so much more than the sum of their individual parts. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because they all I've heard all of their solo albums. Even Richard Wright had one or two. Nick Mason had one. David Gilmour has several. Roger has several. I like them all, but none of them are as good as they were together, which is what makes a great band, man. That's part of what the magic of being in a band and listening to a band.
And I would be remiss if I didn't shout out the albums that did not make this list at all. That would be Endless River, Umaguma,
yeah,
and Roger Waters' first solo record, The Final Cut.
And and none of us put anything. Oh no, did you put Obscured by Cloud? You had Childhood's End.
Yeah, I had Childhood's End. We covered. It's crazy. Out of 15 records, we covered 12 of them.
Obviously, we weren't going to put Umaguma on here.
No.
And we didn't put Final Cut on here.
No.
And we didn't put Endless River on here.
No.
I think other than that, we covered them all, didn't we?
I won't lie to you. I could not name a single song off of Endless River. if you put a gun to my head now, I would probably be dead. Yeah,
they're all named such weird things and they're so short. That's like it didn't need to be a studio project. It's pretty and it's cool, but it could have just been released as a B-sides compilation.
I mean, I said it on the albums. I said High Hopes should have been the last thing we ever heard from Pink Floyd, and that should have been it. And that's why I really hate Endless River even more than I already did.
Mm-hmm. So the reason we're doing this sort of short form, low prep effort video is because we're in the midst of listening through Genesis's, that's gross, discography. Genesis with an S and then apostrophe and then no second S.
Yes.
It's disgusting. I hate that. I know that's the rule, but I still hate that. So how's that going? Where are you in that?
So I started out listening to it. I got it through probably the first 3 or 4, and I realized A, I hadn't taken any notes, and B, I hadn't been paying enough attention. So I went back and listened. So I'm back about halfway through, but I'm making strides in it, and I'm going into it completely blind. I've never sat down and listened to a Genesis record in my life, so I'm trying to figure out what goes where. And it's been an interesting experience. Very, very proggy. Parts of it feel a lot like the worst parts of the Syd Barrett, version of Pink Floyd. But parts of it feel like the best versions of Pink Floyd, just not, as Pink Floyd-ish.
Their 2 careers, Genesis and Pink Floyd, are remarkably similar in terms of the long gaps and the different eras and all that stuff. Multiple different frontmen. I love both. I actually felt kind of guilty after I picked that one because that's a long discography. It's 15 albums. That's why we took an extra week in between and shot this real quick video. So hopefully the mic sounded a little better. I'm excited to see how that turned out. That's one thing that was missing from this project, but nothing to shout about. But we're having a bit of traction now. I think we got 600 or 700 views in the first month that we've been doing this. So nothing to write home about. But
shout out to the John Mayer with Brian that's doing so well. I want to mark this for time that Brian's kicking all of our asses, apparently, mine and Matthew's ass in doing this.
The one thing that is exciting about this, obviously, this project stemmed from the fact that you and I get together weekly and pretty much have these conversations off camera
for
like the last year, 3 years, whatever. So we're just like, well, fuck, let's do something with it. Let's
Yeah.
throw up a camera, and Matt, Ryan are friends of mine, friends of yours, same deal. We talk with them about music all the time.
Right.
And what was exciting is the John Mayer video, the Foo Fighters video, us on Floyd is, we're early on, nobody's really watching, but then occasionally you'll get somebody who will actually comment their own opinion and talk, and clearly they watch the video.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, that's cool as shit. Even if it's one person,
It's still fun.
I was like, that's cool as shit. Somebody watched some portion of this and gave enough shit to put a comment with their own opinion. So
Right.
appreciate that. Whoever that guy was, who's some Czech guy, the first guy to ever comment who didn't know us personally.
I appreciate you, some Czech guy.
Thanks, dude. I'm going to put his name up on the screen. So thanks for watching. Until next time.